excited to be here. We have a complete panel of really great folks that have been in the industry for a really long time. We all have various experiences, and I'll let everybody introduce themselves. But I wanted to let you know that we're going to be covering, tips and tricks from the recruiter side of everything and give you more of an inside look at what that looks like and how you can work alongside us in helping you get into the game world. So I'll let y'all get started. Alejandro, you want to go first?
For sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Alejandro Rodriguez, and I'm a principal recruiter, most recently at Final Strike. I have a history of building and executing upon talent acquisition strategies for game industry clients such as probably Monsters, ArenaNet, Group Mobile, Monolith, NetherRealm, Microsoft, and 343. It is my goal, in truth, and from my heart, to support and to encourage an environment that's professional, inclusive, and respectful for everybody.
And Cami, thank you, Alejandro.
Yeah, I've been working with GG locators for 2 years now. But my background is I've worked at several universities like Full Sail University. And in the career office, my job has always been to work with the industry so they know to come and hire our grads. So a lot of my grads I've watched grow, and grads I helped get, something in LA are now, leading marketing at Snap, and it's fun to watch the journey.
Thank you, Cami. Iris.
Hey everyone, my name's Iris Moon. I'm the managing director at GD Locators. Cami and I work together. We are a boutique staffing firm, and we specialize in sourcing top talent for the gaming industry specifically. Unlike some of our other panelists, Cami and I don't work internally at any one studio. We work with multiple different game studios across the United States.
And Canada.
And Canada.
Thank you. And Jay.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Jay Acevedo. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm Strategic Operations Director at Brassline Entertainment. Been working there for 2 years, but I've been in the industry for 15 plus years. Started my career as an indie enthusiast gaming writer, content manager, then made the move to PR marketing and biz dev in AAA and indie spaces over the last couple of years. Like I said, I've been at Brassline for the past 2 years, and I've been working on amazing projects internally, including talent sourcing and staffing, culture building, deploying DEI and B initiatives, and a smattering of other things as we're building the studio. So we are at work on a game while building a studio culture, while hiring and while growing at the same time. So I'm not sure if you've seen that meme of the Wallace and Gromit meme where like they're going through the train as they're putting the tracks. That's pretty much in a comical way. This is what we're doing at Brassline, but things are going very well. But yeah.
Thank you, Jay. And Josh, your turn.
Hello, I'm Josh, and I've been recruiting for about 8 years across a ton of different industries, including aerospace engineering, advertising, and now gaming. So I've been here at Obsidian for nearly 2 years now, and I handle all roles and levels from programming to arts, interns to directors, basically everything. And at Obsidian, I have a small team, and we work to improve recruiting processes, bring DEI events to life, and we also try to convince people to go rock climbing all the time here at the studio. So.
Oh, thank you, Josh. I'm not going to rock climb with you, though. So everyone, just so you know, if you have any questions, please pop them in the chat, and we'll try to get to them as well. But we're going to get started. I didn't get to share about myself. My name is Annette Mercado. I have been in recruiting for 8 years, specifically focusing on gaming for those 8 years, and I really enjoy it. I'm currently at Crystal Dynamics, hiring all across different platforms, different everything for our teams here. We have lots of open roles and more coming down the pipeline. So we'll get started, and we're going to kick off with basically an overview of the job market right now and just jump right into what's going on. And I'll let Josh get started.
Yeah, for sure. I think for the biggest change for our industry has been salary transparency. So if y'all aren't familiar, California law requires that we have to post all of our wages online. And this is actually not just California, a couple other states as well, but the other states that don't have this mandate have also started doing it just to kind of show faith. So ultimately, when you are speaking with the recruiter, even just applying to the position, you should already know the range of the role. A lot of times it's going to be a pretty wide range because it'll be listed as like associate through senior. So you're going to see like a gap of like 60,000 delta sometimes, if not more than that. And my recommendation for this is to check in with the recruiter on your first call to see where you're going to land in that range, just because you might think, oh, I'm going to definitely hit the highest, or you want to have an understanding. And I'm always open to answering that question because I don't want you to come in to our studio interviews and then expect something different than what we're able to provide. So at the end of the day, just make sure to ask about what you're getting within that range itself.
Thank you, Josh. And Iris, we were going to talk about the things that are changing as well, layoffs that are
Yeah,
happening.
I'll just add on to what we're kind of seeing in the job market this year, especially this year versus last year. Obviously, I'm sure most people are aware if you're on LinkedIn or following along in the industry. A lot of layoffs this year, starting in January, and still continuing. We're we know it's going to turn back around at some point, so we're hopeful there. But if you're out there looking for a job, it's challenging for a lot of people right now. Another thing we've been seeing this year is on-site requirements. A lot of game studios wanting people back on site in the studio, and relocation again, just so they can be collaborative. It was always that way, but obviously during COVID, a lot of people moved out of the state that the studio was in that they're working in. So we're going to kind of see how that plays out this year, but it's definitely something that we're seeing required now. So if you can be flexible with relocation and moving to be where the studio is, I think it definitely helps your chances of landing that job.
Yeah, we're also seeing a lot of very slow moving responses. Interviews seem to be going very slow. Everything's been kind of on a slow track, a pause, or complete layoff. So as you're applying for jobs and your response is, you don't get a response for a while, you may in a month, but everybody's moving really slow.
Yes.
Sadly.
Chime in on that a little bit from the internal side of things. Oftentimes it is just that we're trying to reassess headcount, making sure that we're not overhiring. And for Obsidian's case, we're very fortunate that we were not impacted by layoffs at all, but we did start our pause on hiring pretty early on compared to some other folks. So apologies in advance if we get too slowly. The recruiters here are trying to do our best to move forward, but there are oftentimes greater discussions at hand with regards to headcount. So bear with us a moment.
And we're going to talk about how you can use the job descriptions to your advantage. Iris.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about, when you're applying for jobs, especially if you feel like your resume is just disappearing into a black hole, making sure you're being strategic about it, reading the job description, making sure that what you are applying for aligns with your skill set. Make sure all your technical skills are on the resume, your portfolio if you're an artist, any art tools, especially things you've used at a professional level. If you're brand new trying to break into the industry, things you've used maybe, in your senior year, or some projects you did while you were in school. And just making sure that the bullets on your resume align with what you're seeing on the job description. Obviously, if you have the experience, don't put it on there if you don't.
Yeah,
In truth, Iris, I'd like to build up on from that. It would be really, apart from just a high level of making sure that your experience matches the job description. I want to build into that. We also, of course, make sure that you check the live links, make sure the job is actually alive. Save as a PDF or a Word doc, or of course not using Google Docs as with a link. But getting back to the making sure your job description looks like making sure like the resume looks like a job description, really take this opportunity to build trust in the hiring managers and the recruiters by portraying yourself as the candidate worthy of investment through clear demonstration of the skills and qualifications outlined in the job. What all that means to say is that grab the job description and grab your resume and boom, pineapple, apple pen, right? Make sure that they align. Make sure that they use the same verbiage they're using. That way, that when a recruiter reads your resume, they can pretty much see your experience align with the job description. They can say, hey, if this person looks like a fit, let's put them into the next steps. I also understand I want to elaborate a little bit more on something else, which is how do you get experience to having experience? Really, I will look for you to is not just trying to like have internships, but I also recommend for you try doing something like game jams or trying to do like smaller projects. As long as you have the ability to demonstrate that you have used those tools, that you have worked with it within a team that is able to be in a game development environment, they'll really support build trust within us or hiring managers or art directors or wherever you want to go after.
I think the big piece of that is that you're learning to work with others, because it's very rare that you're going to have a one-person studio these days. Oftentimes, if you're applying to a larger studio, we want to show that, yeah, I know how to work with a producer, I know how to work with an audio designer, that sort of thing. Even if it is a game jam or a student thing, I know a lot of people like to put their solo projects online, which is great, but please try to include something where you did actually work with a team, so that when the recruiter asks like, what was your experience on this project, it's not just you saying like, I bulldozed everything because I basically was the one person working on it. So we want to see how you work in a collaborative environment.
Thank you all. So the next topic we're going to chat about is what are candidates looking for in a studio in a new role? And I'll let Iris take this one again.
This is kind of redundant. I feel like I just said this, but what we are seeing are, even with more senior level candidates, are people are wanting remote opportunities and not really budging. So if you are open to relocating, wanting to get your foot in the door and open to trying something new, I highly recommend, taking advantage of that right now and being open to opportunities wherever they are if it gets your foot in the door with your first game studio. And then this is comp. Another thing we're seeing is compensation requirements. Last year was definitely a year of hiring and a year of very high compensation. So I think this year, it helps to be a little bit more flexible there as well. If it's not all about the compensation. Obviously, you have to consider, what other benefits are being offered with the studio. Is it your dream project? Is it a really wonderful work or company culture and team that you get to work with on a daily basis? So kind of weighing what else is out there instead of just looking at a base salary. And like Josh said, with the salary transparency, you can kind of see what's up there now.
I saw a question to comment again about the part about working on a team is important. That was just me saying game jams, community discords like Reddit, stuff like that are a really helpful source of adding to your portfolio or resume, and including that how to interact with different disciplines, because it is very rare that you're going to be the sole game director, like designer. And there's like Minecraft and Stardew Valley out there, but there's also a ton of indie projects that didn't show up. But emphasize your team efforts, because ultimately a lot of the studios that you're applying to are going to be working with pretty large teams, and being able to comprehend or even translate information from someone that's a programmer into a designer or artist is super helpful, and that you've had experience with it is a huge plus. But to segue back into Iris's, with regards to the salary ranges, kind of going back a little bit, it also applies to people that are trying to transition into gaming from different industries. So I think that's something really key to understand, is that, if you are a programmer and you're like, well, I already have 5 years of programming experience, can I just leap into a staff or senior level programming role in a game studio? It's very unlikely, because you probably don't have first off, the experience we just mentioned about working in a team to develop a game. And secondly, the coding language is usually pretty unique to Unreal or Unity or whatever proprietary software they're using. So if you are one of the folks like myself, even as a recruiter, I transitioned in from advertising to video games. I took a title demotion effectively, and a pay decrease. I proved myself in that time, so I'm back up to where I am previously. But you do have to understand that sacrifices do have to be made if you're looking to transition industries entirely.
That's a really good point, Josh. Thank you for sharing that. I think a lot of people don't realize that. Let's see. And then we were going to talk about looking at studio and the cultures, and for Alejandro to jump into that.
Thank you for that. In truth, we're all human beings, and honestly, we wish to be treated with respect. And a culture that we as workers look for is honestly one that is positive, right? When that includes and it's led by an idea of inclusivity and diversity, that is supportive and for the person's growth, right? Have good work-life balance. That's collaborative. That has transparent and open communication. That has recognition and appreciation, right? And this has overall positive and respectful leadership, right? Um, Really, it's about making sure that you and companies are able to put investment in making sure that the environment is one that is helps the people become their best selves while working with them, rather than just to be a cog in a machine and be spat out like within 2 years.
And I wanted to also speak to your ability to do that is during the interview process, like make sure that you ask about what's important to the studio, what are the growth opportunities, that sort of stuff. So it's your chance to interview whoever's interviewing you too.
Please always remember
To that point, I'd like to also add that it's a two-way street, right? In the same way that a recruiter is asking you questions about the type of person and professional that you are, as Josh and Alejandro were saying, you need to ask that back to the recruiter as well, because you're also bringing yourself to that culture, right? And the way I always preface these interviews, I always say they're conversations, right? Like I have as much to gain than the candidate by also sharing my experiences and conversating with the person. So the second you start switching from interview mode into conversation, then all of a sudden all these topic of conversations opportunities will be presented to you. So it's a mind shift that I think it's important in this very particular. Personally, anyways, I always say to whoever joins in a Zoom call, I says, "Hey, this is not an interview; it's a conversation." Right. And you would see like pressure comes out of their shoulders all of a sudden, and now they can be more eloquent about the things that they are passionate about. So, yeah, as we're gonna be hearing the word interview a lot, personally, I made the mental shift of seeing them as conversations as well, and that helps out the whole entire process for both parties.
Well said, Jay. I really agree with that. It's more about you making sure that you are not there as a supplicant. Someone's like, yes, we all want that job, but we have to make sure it's a right fit for us too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always start my calls with, this is just me getting to know you, and I want to understand what you're looking for. We have a lot of questions, so I one or two kind of break up what we've got on the other side here. One of the questions is, I want to go back to, let's go back to how you structure a resume on the programming side of things. Would you give a brief description of the project or talk more about the programming aspects of the project? What would you say, Alejandro?
In the programming side.
Yeah, if you like, this is a question from somebody. Would you give a brief description of the project or talk more about the programming aspect of the project? Just reading it word for word here.
Oh, sorry.
How would you structure your resume on the programming side of things? I mean, I would focus on making sure you have all your information.
Jump in.
Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still important to, most of the times these are all links now. No one's actually submitting a paper resume. So a lot of the times, and this is also part of the initial topic of like, make sure that your links are working. People will link us to their itch.ios or GitHubs and stuff like that. So that's probably where you could include your description of the project. If you really wanted to briefly say like first person shooter made in Unity or something like that, or like a third person, whatever. That's totally cool. But again, the focus for the hiring manager or the recruiter reading it is going to be like, what programming language did they use, what features did they implement, that sort of stuff. I'm not super concerned about what the game does. So a very brief description, or again, just include it on the link to its the website itself. My recommendation.
Thank you, Josh.
Yeah.
I think we missed 2 questions above that one though.
Yeah.
One was when
Sorry.
I'm in school, when would be the time to put the, Unreal 5 on their resume after they've had the professional experience or once they graduate?
I think you want to put all your skills, I don't care who you are,
Right.
put those skills right up at the top, because that and the link to portfolios or Git are the first things that anybody who's going to be looking over is going to want to see. It's, so Unreal, if you have if you've got some good experience from school, put it up there.
Right.
Whether it's programming or art, you want to have all that right at the top. Bullet points. Nobody wants to read anything anymore. So anything you can make in bullet points and being very concise is going to serve you better than, I played games since I was 12. We hear that all the time.
And this is one of the topics we were going to cover is how do we take advantage of the connections with recruiters in the gaming industry?
I don't have a thought before I chime in again. I was gonna say, if you've interviewed with the recruiter before, or you've met them like on site somewhere like GDC or something like that, keep a casual connection going. Check in every once in a while, but I wouldn't like force the conversation too much, because you have to understand we do meet a lot of people. Another thing is that you can ask them for suggestions on people to reach out to instead of themselves, because personally, I'm a recruiter. I just know kind of the surface level of a lot of positions. I can't do a technical deep dive with you of your portfolio, of your programming. So I'd actually say like, hey, Josh, like, do you have any programmers that you think would be available to chat with me? And then if you had a good relationship during that time, I would happily recommend someone to you. But if your check-ins are constantly like, hey, Josh, is there a position open for me yet? Hey, can you look at my resume and do this? Like, I get a lot of those. And frankly, like, that's not what I need to be doing day to day, because I do have like a greater organization to be taking care of. So as much as I would want to help every single person that does that, you have to understand the volume of people asking that is more than just yourself. So a lot of the times, if we can have you, reach out to somebody else that actually shares your discipline, they'll probably genuinely be more helpful to you than the recruiter is going to be during your like resume review / portfolio review experience.
I always say go to your college if you've gone to college, or go to this, like the Seattle Indies. We have a great mentoring community on our Discord. I know Austin has a great ATX Game Makers is a great community, and they, you can on their Discord you can get some mentoring. But what you really want to ask is there a job, or what do you get? I always suggest that you ask, here's my resume, or here's my portfolio. I know you're really busy, but what can I be adding to my resume or my skill sets to be a strong candidate for a studio like yours? So maybe if you phrase it that way, if they have time, they may get to look at it as constructive criticism and give you some, great feedback. But I know, Jay and Josh and Alejandro and Annette can be pretty, and Iris and me can be pretty overwhelmed with a lot of outreach. So reach out to the mentorship things that are going on. As I said, Seattle Indies, we have a great mentorship organization for anybody. So go to the Discord channel, go to Discord channels. They're out there.
And another question, people repeat that we should tailor our resumes to job descriptions, but some of us are applying to hundreds of jobs a week, probably more for others. Is that a wrong approach? If so, what's the best strategy for making the most of our time when applying for jobs that we hit that sweet spot?
I would love to answer that question.
Okay.
Go, Jay.
Yeah. So it's definitely, to me anyways, not the right strategy, right? Because at that point, what is the real question, right? Is I'm really interested about joining this culture and bring myself to, or I just want a job, right? So by asking yourself those two questions, then you'll know what your state of mind is and how to approach it, right? Because hundreds of resumes, is it a day, a week? That's a lot. That's a lot, right? So and I think the second question is like, what's the best strategy? I mean, there's no real winning strategy, but I think what anyone needs to understand is that, as was mentioned earlier on about taking the job description, mirror it to your resume and being relevant and make it resonate. To me, resonance is the key word here, right? From your resume to your cover letter to how you approach the person and how you bring yourself to that conversation, right? Again, I said conversation, right? Not an interview, because interviews is very systematic. It's a very, 1, 2, 3, 4 step approach, and then it's very robotic, right? So if you're preparing yourself for a conversation, that's the key, right? How do you work your cover letter? How do you say, hey, I'm applying here because of this reason and this reason that resonates with me because I don't know, I played your games when I was a kid and I resonated with this and this and that, maybe, right? But imagine saying and telling that same story on 100 different cover letters for the 100 different jobs. And I'll tell you that I'm a Brosland and I get cover letters that says Dear Activision, right? Like you're bound to make a mistake eventually that, beautiful cover letter, but I can tell that you've been really fast applying for jobs. And, us as recruiters also, that's a topic of like, well, are they focused? Can they actually do this? I don't know, right? Like, yeah, I might reply and I might let them know what's up and let's have a chat, but you're bound to make some mistakes eventually by applying to 100 places a week. So try to resonate. And Josh said it well earlier as well, right? Like, look at that job description, look at that resume, and without really carbon copy exactly the skills and qualifications, just tell a story around that, right? Like, everybody wants to be in games for what, right? For the storytelling. Well, be a storyteller, right? Invite yourself to a conversation and make it a fun conversation for whoever is in that call or that meeting room or whatever you're gonna take that chat, that invitation. So feel free to disagree here, but yeah, and I know that in school, and I've heard that, right, of talking to a junior developer, and they were like, "Oh, but that's what it told us in school." And I was like, "Well, like no, more like that is like you've done nothing, right? Because now you're just hunting for a job, not just want a job, not just want a paycheck, right? So eventually, it will create issues."
So oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Josh. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, with regards to the cover letter aspect of it, I know a lot of people also say, like, do recruiters even read them? I personally do for sure for junior applicants, because a lot of the times you're coming in from the same schools and same backgrounds. So I do like to read why you're interested in our studio in particular. This isn't meant to say like you have to tailor your cover letter exactly every single time. Literally just include like one sentence. If you include one sentence about why you'd like to work at Obsidian versus Blizzard or Activision or wherever, that shows that, hey, this person put in an ounce of effort, at least into the cover letter. I always say, it's a lot of luck and timing. So you want to amplify your chances the best you can. So if you happen to get a recruiter that reads cover letters like me, having a cover letter is going to improve your chances. The more ways that you find to improve your chances, i.e. having a nice resume. Someone asked about, does it have to be pretty? Does not have to, but if it's eye-catching, it'll stop my eye for a little bit longer than, say, like your black and white Times New Roman size 12 font sort of situation. And that also improves your chances. Again, not a requirement, but it's just a small thing that could boost based on, if the recruiter that is looking at your stuff likes colorful things. I like colorful things. So I'll be like, whoa, here's a resume. My final tip for that part of it is also, you shouldn't be applying to 100 jobs a week, because I don't think anybody's interested in that many studios to begin with. What you should be doing, though, is reaching out to people on LinkedIn, maybe 100 of those people a week, in different like disciplines that you are interested in, whether it's a programmer at Blizzard or a programmer at Activision. Like, talk to them. If you make a good conversation with them, they'll refer you to the job. That'll save you a lot more time than just applying to a million jobs at once.
I'd be getting out. I'd be trying to go to any meetups, game events. I know I'm lucky. I live here in Seattle and we have a ton of meetups happening all the time. But if you live somewhere where there aren't any, start one, because you can be sure that there are people in your community that play games. It doesn't have to be overly organized. It's just a gathering place. And there's nothing more important than community when it comes to, well, the game community is pretty extraordinary, very helpful with each other, very caring. And so building that community infrastructure, that's why I go to game jams and meet people, right? I don't know. I go anywhere to meet people.
All valid points. I think those are all really important. Another question we have is, how would you expect someone to express their experience working on a project that is bound to an NDA? For example, how can the applicant optimize speaking to their strengths with such limitations? Ooh, I had that this. I'll share. I know that a lot of folks cannot share. Sometimes they get permission from who they're working for, and they can put those things under lock and key and share it live while they're talking to a hiring manager. Typically, when you get to the hiring manager phase, you've both signed an NDA, especially over on our side at Crystal Dynamics. We make sure they've signed NDAs so we can have these open conversations, especially about the games that we've got going on our side. But I know that it can be very limited to put it on your resume. I personally would, at least describe what you're working on as best you can with the words that you can utilize, and confirm that with your HR. I know that times you might not tell them you're looking for jobs, but just tell them you want to update your LinkedIn, and they have to be respectful of that. And I think that's really important, to have that constant update of your LinkedIn, because a lot of times we're looking for folks and we're looking for keywords when we're on LinkedIn, and we can see that you've worked such and such, like a fighter game, things like that.
Yeah, I love to talk about LinkedIn because all recruiters are on LinkedIn a lot. It's almost, it's too much sometimes. But if you have your keywords in there, we do a search, a filter based on the keywords that we're looking for. Maybe the city, maybe, Unreal, maybe, Houdini, whatever. And LinkedIn pulls up all the names of people that meet those criteria. But even when I go to bed at night, LinkedIn is still cranking. So when I get up in the morning, I still have a new list that's populated in. So keywords are critical. Make it clean. LinkedIn, you don't have to be posting a lot, but if you have a good LinkedIn profile, get a picture that looks friendly. It doesn't have to be suit and tie. It could just be like somebody you want to work with. That's the picture you want. No hoodies. Oh.
All right, I'm going to go back to some more questions, and then we'll come back and make sure we've gotten all the things we wanted to talk about. I'll get 2 more questions here. Let's see. With so many layoffs, the job market seems to be filled with higher level professionals looking for roles. I'm a junior level community manager with 2 years experience in games, and this has been the biggest struggle when looking for my next adventure. What is the best way to set ourselves apart from applicants with more experience on paper?
To speak to this, I would actually think that they usually aren't competing with you too much, because if we're looking for a staff or junior level person, if a senior applies, I'm more likely to cut the senior regardless, because we're like, we don't have the money to pay you. And the moment that you find a senior position, you're probably going to leave anyway. So, a big issue is often someone that's highly overqualified taking a junior role. Like, most people would just find that a red flag to begin with. So I wouldn't be too concerned about it. I was,
And I was just gonna say, I think right now, like this year especially, there's typically a lot more, staff level positions and associate level positions out there. And I just think there's, in general, just not as many jobs as usual. So I imagine that can be really challenging this year, especially. So it's more like Josh said about timing, patience, posting on LinkedIn helps a lot too with what you're looking for. This industry has really come together this year, and it's really nice to see everybody kind of jumping in and commenting and referring and, sharing opportunities with people who are putting themselves out there on LinkedIn.
If I can add to that as well. In the background, a studio posts a role, let's say a junior level role or mid-level role, but in truth, they are really looking for what's the best fit for them, right? As a recruiter, it's not always I hire the best technical, the best artist, the best engineer, right? I hire the person that best fits the needs of the team at that time. And so I recommend for you or for everybody listening is that to be the best person you can be, to study and to be the best at what you want to be. That way that you can build, again, the trust in order for us to be able to invest in you and to grow you into the place person that we hope for you to be, and for you to grow to be the best you can be.
I'd like to add to Iris and Alejandro's comment about that question, because I saw something in the chat as well about, what do you do when they're opening a junior role and then they're asking for 5+ years of experience in the game industry? How can I get 5+ years of experience in the industry if I'm a junior, right? So to tie it back to this, I don't know what their name was, about the experience and the job post there for the June Rodriguez, June. So if you're applying and that role is a junior and is asking for 5+ years, then you should definitely write the note and ask the questions like, well, I thought this was a junior role, right? Now, if it's not a junior role and you're applying to it, then I think it all goes back to what Josh was saying about, well, the timing of the student, what they actually need. But if you're actually applying to a job that it says clearly junior community developer and is asking 5+ years experience, then I think that's even just worth asking a question to the recruiter or the person on LinkedIn to say, hey, I'm wondering, is this a junior or not a junior? Because I have 2+ years experience. I consider myself entry level, but it seems like this is a senior. So which one is it? Right. And I think that's a very important question also, because in recruitment always comes back, right? Whenever I'm in forums, Discords, Twitters, or whatever, it's always like, hey, they're asking for a junior role, but then they're asking for 6 years of experience. I don't understand what that means. Like, does my academic experience counts? Is it professional? How do I ship a game while being a junior and not having the opportunity? So I think that's also the layers of people understanding what the job description is, and if it's needed, challenging it. But also to Josh's points, like if it's really a junior, we're not going to bother with a senior, but it needs to be clear. I try to tackle 2 questions at once, basically.
Thank you, Jay. You really did. And so I wanted to get back to what we wanted to chat about as well. Let me make sure I get in the right spot. Let me get back to this one question though. Should I send my resume over even if I don't have experience required for the role, just to be on the recruiter's radar and hope to be considered for another more suitable role in the future?
I mean, if the cover letter says that specifically, then I don't mind. But if you're trying to make me believe that you're a senior person, then that's another conversation.
And I'll just add, there's usually I'm not an internal, but a lot of the studios we partner with, the teams are, 4 people. So if you're applying to every job on there just to get visibility, it's likely that same recruiter getting your resume over and over for every position. I don't know if you guys want to add on to this being internally, but I think I would recommend, if there might be, 2 things you can do well, apply to those 2 positions, but I think applying to every job that gets posted is not going to make a huge difference at the end of the day.
Very much
usually those sites have an email that says, if you have questions, send this email there. I prefer rather getting a spontaneous email with that than 8 applications for different roles. So it comes back to the person applying to 100 jobs a week, right? Like if you go to Brassan right now, you can see that there's like 6 engineering roles. If you apply to the 6 of them, like I'm not even going to bother at that point. It's just like, well, what are you, this magical engineer that can do all these 6 different things? So at that point, just send an email to the recruitment email, and spontaneous email says, hey, no openings, but here's my resume just in case. That's, to me, way more effective than applying to 3 or 4 roles just to get attention.
We have a general applications bucket for that. And also our player support will pass along questions for recruiting sometimes. So you can also go that route. But yeah, speaking to the red flag of applying to everything, like our internship, we had 4 very different internship roles. And if you apply to all 4 of them simultaneously, we're like, do you actually know what you want to do? So I'm just gonna high five Jay on re-emphasizing that point.
Thank you. I wanted to get back to what we were chatting about, and it goes back to everything is about networking, and how we, encourage you to network. I know that Cami talked a little bit about it, about, maybe starting your own event or something like that. But I wanted to touch a little bit more about that, and some ways that you can, go to those events and really make yourself stand out. Um, and I will let Josh, I think it was Josh that was next to talk about no, it was Cami, about the, Discord groups, the game jams, the meetups.
Yeah, there's a lot that happens, and even I was at a hackathon and there was a whole recruiting table there um one time, and they were there to recruit. A lot of times at hackathons or game jams, recruiters might be walking around just looking at how, what's going on, who's working, how well people are working together as a team, who's just the general dynamics. But really it's about building community, and people you trust are going to be people you might hire yourself if you have the job. So I always say make friends, show supportive, be a positive person. Everybody's an introvert in the game industry, frankly. And so you just have to know that if you have, if you just can start the conversation, it's probably a great relief if you go to a meetup of some kind. Anyway, making friends in the game industry is pretty important.
Yeah, and I think speaking of the introversion part of it, yeah, we're all recruiters, but a lot of us are still introverts. I ultimately don't love just going out in public and meeting people all the time. It is literally my job, so that's why I do it. However, for those that are just fully introverts and are concerned about like, how do I even make a good impression? It's like you just have to try it. Like sucking at something is the first step to getting better at something, right? And that includes networking and relationship building. It is just something that you have to get used to. So no matter the industry, whether it is gaming or the other ones that have been in advertising or engineering, you still have to network, because referrals I think make up some huge percentage of hires across the board. And a lot of those times those come from folks that you just met kind of in like innocuously anywhere else. I know I recently hired somebody that I met at my climbing gym, and that was, I know I'm talking about climbing way too much for this, but to that credit, it was literally just that, oh, we heard you talking about video games. You play games, I work in game dev. That was it. As simple as that. And a year later, they're hired at my studio. So
I got the job at Full Sail. I was walking my dog. The vice president was walking her dog. We did that, I don't know, for a month. We just kind of kept bumping into each other, walking our dogs. And at the end, she said, oh, I really need you on my team. I didn't even have to bring in a resume. She already knew I was a good dog walker, but also she knew some of my background as well. So walk your dog. Yeah, go buy a dog tonight. I love that.
and in the era of virtual, LinkedIn etiquette's pretty important here too. So just I have a mentee in high school, and I was basically educating them how to prepare a nice cold outreach. Just take a moment to go through the person's profile and find like one thing to connect on, even if it's small. Mine, for example, it includes that I enjoy D&D. You can bring something up about that. I'm more inclined to speak to you than if you were just like, hey, I'm looking to connect to learn about these jobs. I'm like, okay, cool. I don't even know who you are. But if it's like, hey, I'm a D&D fan too, like, what's your favorite class? Like, it sounds a lot less forceful. And I'm more inclined to take the message than someone just trying to knock on my door and like burst in.
And also to that, about your LinkedIn, make sure that your ArtStation and your portfolio is up to date. I know Alejandro was going to talk a little bit about that.
Gladly. And so, in truth, portfolios to me is something that I focus on a lot. And to give you a high level of what you should be doing, really focus on your showcasing your work that is relevant to your career that you want, such as character design and illustration, concept art. An old saying I love to hear, I heard one time I love to say is that someone will always pay you a little bit more money to do the thing you don't want to do. And eventually you'll get known for that. But in order for you to go back to the thing you want to do, it's going to be so difficult for you. You'll probably have to take a bunch of pay cuts. Also, tailor your portfolio to the role you're going after applying, and including the strongest pieces and most relevant style to the company you're applying for, right? So, like, for example, if you want to work Call of Duty, right, with their super high definition and like a super high like level realism, no stylization, then you're not going to give them a portfolio that's going to be best in line for Blizzard or for like a World of Warcraft, right? It's just not going to align, and it's not going to build trust. Again, highlight your best pieces of work. Demonstrate your understanding of art fundamentals, how to tell a story visually. That's super important, right? A junior level or mid-level is, I expect them to be able to translate concept into 3D, or as a concept artist, you're able to elaborate upon this. But at the same time, the people that we're really invested in are the ones that are able to understand fundamentals of being able to speak through shape language, being able to speak through color. Like things like this are really the ones that matter to me and to people and to art directors, to people for to invest in. Demonstrate again your ability to tell a story visually, understand composition really well, please. Showcase your process if you can. Really important for us to understand how you work to go from a blank canvas to be able to see where you're at, or to a final piece, be able to finalize art. We kind of talked about this a little bit beforehand. NDA work, do not include NDA work. And if you do want to include NDA work, then have it password protected. Make sure that it is something that you share only through the application process and not outside. And honestly, yeah, if you have, for example, 3D work and 2D work and concept work and illustrative work, separate those, right? And make sure they're all at the caliber that you hope to be considered for, right? So, for example, you're a 3D artist and you're pretty good at that, but then you have 2D art and it's very rough, right? It's at the level where you wouldn't want to be judged against that. Then that will be actually hurtful for you. So make sure that you're able to have a good taste of art, a good taste of being able to tell stories visually across the board. That'll give us more trust in you. Oh yeah, of course. And also, very much like in resumes, keywords, right? Keywords are as important here too, right? Us recruiters or anybody else who can do an AI even, right? It's gonna scour the internet, and it's gonna mostly go against keywords, right? Example, you're gonna have a hiring manager ask, hey, they need to know Maya 3ds Max, they need to know Blender really well, they need to know Houdini really well, right? What's a regular recruiter gonna go? Gonna go into the description and say, do they have those things? Yeah, they do. All right, maybe we can talk to them, right? It's just your ability to demonstrate your technical ability and your ability to tell a story is fundamental to being just a successful candidate.
Thank you, Alejandro. Those are really important. Those are vital. So we can see those clearly, just like Josh was mentioning earlier, making sure that your resume is concise and has perfect, keywords that we can see quickly and read, scan. I mean, we're looking through lots and lots of resumes daily. I know the rest of us are. But I want to go back to our question. Just have a little bit longer. I want to make like 15 more minutes, or we have longer.
15 or 12.
This is a question for Josh. First, I wanted to give you a thank you for assisting. This is from Anthony, for assisting me through the Obsidian internship process a while back. Second, I wanted to ask, last Thursday, I've now graduated from the College of New Jersey as a now recent graduate. Congratulations. I've been trying to apply for more full-time entry associate roles rather than internships, but I'm not sure if I'm rushing into applying more rather than focusing on building more personal projects, jams, solos. Should I focus on personal in order to stand out to recruiters, or should I just keep applying as a fresh grad?
I don't think they have to be mutually exclusive, but also, hi, Anthony. I'm Maria. I don't think that has to be mutually exclusive. I know job hunting takes a lot of time, but you should be able to make enough time to also participate in those game jams. Just allocate your time accordingly. I wouldn't stop progressing your portfolio just because you are in the application process. You should constantly be improving. And if this is especially true if you're an artist, you should probably never stop ever with improving your portfolio pieces. It's never really complete, right? I think that's just part of how it is. So with regards to this, they're not mutually exclusive. You can do both, which I would also frankly recommend.
All right, the next question. What can someone do to demonstrate collaborative experience when a studio has a major layoff and all of the in-house projects are shelved and under NDA? So info can't be shared, for example. I asked for me and my ex-coworkers. That's very nice, Carlos.
It really depends on it really depends on what kind of work it is. In truth, right, your resume should speak for for your experiences, and like for example you're an artist, right, then you have and you can't show NDA work. Then in that case, then it would be in the during the time for the interview you're able to speak on more upon that, or if not, if you may build a beautiful corner. I know it'll take some investment in time to demonstrate your ability to do that, to work at that quality bar that you have done for in the past, right? Don't You don't have to make a massive environment, massive character, just something really, there's something direct in that timeline. If you're a designer, right, then if you may speak about more about during the interview as well, right, speak about your experiences, about how you problem solve with other designers. But yeah, as an engineer, right, honestly, I will definitely refer more to Josh in this question. But in truth, as an engineer, you must just be able to speak about and elaborate upon your work. So it's not like even when you were employed, you were able to show your entire code for the engine in that, right?
Thank you, Alejandro. Let's see. With the
We,
rare, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I just saw an important question that
Okay.
just kind of just hit my heart, and I think this panel can definitely discuss it. From June Rodriguez, about code switching
Oh,
to get a job or to get seen or to get an interview, and I think this is very relevant for this panel. So I would like us to tackle that question if we can.
so her question is, I know we're at the end of the conversation, so if there isn't time for this question, no worries. As an Indigenous Latina, I've been warned not to highlight my diversity on my LinkedIn. Don't do that. Latino History Month banner on my profile. Is this actually something I should avoid? It helps me as a community manager to be more open about myself.
I would love to add to this, but please, if anybody else wants to go first.
Yeah, if it's something that somebody's not hiring you for, then you probably don't want to work for them anyways.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's
Yeah.
the biggest thing. Like if it's somehow preventing you from getting a job, then you
Who
should work there anyways.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think
you go
I
for it.
think we're all understanding here that anyone here wants to bring themselves to a great culture, right? And that great culture starts with you as a human being. So Josh put it really well, right? If you are applying to a place that is their thing, then you shouldn't be bringing yourself to there. And someone else will actually look at that and be like, well, oh, that's awesome. Like, mad respect, because somebody might be the same struggle as you, and they're like, well, we're only two of us here, so the more the merrier, right? So this is about personal empowerment, and also creating that shift in corporations as well, to says, hey, like, you as a candidate, as a human being, has more power than you think you do, and starts with that.
The games market is a diverse market. In order for the game studios to be able to develop games for those markets, they themselves need to reflect that diversity, and that starts with you too.
Yep.
So yeah, no, be yourself, please. Don't let anybody tell you that.
Yeah.
Right.
Even if they did it from them, even if they thought it was the right thing to tell you, that's not the right thing to tell you.
Thank you, everyone. Um, let's see. We'll go one more question. Somebody wanted to, I'm just going to read from the bottom here. Uh, some interview tips.
I'll get started with that. I love interviews.
Yeah,
I
yeah, go for it.
research, man. I research. I do everything from,
Right.
checking out the people that work at, I go to LinkedIn, check out the type of people that, are there, who's working on, who's got what job roles. I kind of keep, it's totally good to do research on LinkedIn. And then I also, look at their games. Does their game look diverse? Then you might have a clue that it is a diverse art team or team. I would also, besides playing the game, maybe, definitely, I look at all the social media. What are they shouting out on Twitter? That's really important. Or if they don't have anything that they've posted recently on any social media, well, then that tells you something too. They're more quiet about their games or whatever is going on. Social media, LinkedIn, definitely, and research everything you can.
Yep.
Research.
And just, when you're interviewing, be yourself. Talk about what you know. If you don't know something, be honest and say you don't know it. There's a lot of studios out there and a lot of people who are, open to training up in an area, and you might be a great fit, just missing one thing, and just let them know you don't have that skill set, and, be open and honest about what you're looking for in terms of culture, because like many people have mentioned on this panel, you don't want to wind up somewhere that's not the right fit for you either. You want to be somewhere where you feel comfortable, you feel at home, and it feels like the right culture and the right fit.
And I think Jay said it best early on. This is your opportunity to interview the company you're speaking to. This is your opportunity to learn more about them. And the more you know, the more engaged everyone will be in the conversations you're having, and they'll be likely more open and honest with you too. It's a two-way street, and we want to get to know you as a person. And if work well with our teams, that's really important to us. Overall, I think that's the ideal candidate is somebody that's really open, honest, and can communicate those experiences that they've had.
And also, just to reemphasize something that probably everyone has heard before, but please provide context or examples when answering questions. Most recruiters should know not to ask a question that's easily answered with yes or no. However, I still get a lot of times when people are just like, yeah, I've done that. And I'm like, cool, can you elaborate, please? And then, continue to have to ask that every time is kind of a nuisance. So please come prepared with examples of things that you're going to talk about. Again, I know it's a simple one, but just a reminder.
And I think I'll have one more question. Let's see. I think we've answered some of them in the chat too. Oh, here's a new one that's a new thing that's going on. What's the recruiter's perspective on applicants using Chat GPT, resume, cover? Did that get covered?
I saw that like 5 times.
I answered it in chat, but basically I recently saw a very blatantly Chat GPT cover letter, and really, again, use it for inspiration, but don't copy and paste it entirely because it's super blatant. Makes stuff sound like your own voice still. Like it should still sound like it's coming from you. So that's all I can say about that.
It's fun to play with though.
It is fun. Well, I want to say thank you to everyone for joining us today. It's been our pleasure. Reach out to us on LinkedIn if you'd like. I think a few folks have put their LinkedIn in here. And anything else y'all would like to add?
Don't stop. It can be discouraging, but keep
Yeah.
Yeah.